it's me, it's the man who likes to Orient, dropping a fresh VID for you today. And finally, after a long delay and life getting in the way and equipment breaking and all this wonderful stuff, in honor of the upcoming Royal Rumble, we return to the Rumble Retrospective. And it's time to speak of the 1991 Royal Rumble, so let's get right into it. This Rumble was brought to us from the Miami Arena in Miami, Florida. Uh, attendance was, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of 16,000. Our commentators were Gorilla Monsoon and Rowdy Roddy Piper, and a lot of things about the war going on, because this was Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield was going on at the time. The war in Iraq was huge, so a lot of focus on America, a lot of red, white, and blue, and colorful outfits, and good guys, and American Pie, and all that wonderful stuff like that. That's fantastic. Uh, you know, I said in the last Rumble retrospective video I did, which was way back a long time ago, that the second Rumble was the first really polished Royal Rumble that they had, and I stand by that, because that really did feel like a proper Rumble show, and with each year for the next couple of years, they seem to get better and better in understanding what they wanted the Rumble to be. And even the card was a dramatic improvement, which we're going to get into right now. Um, Opening, by the way, I watched the anthology version, and big, huge American flag, which is always beautiful to see at the start, and followed up by the playing of our national anthem to support the boys and girls. The only knock I have in the beginning is Roddy Piper on commentary. I understand his purpose. I'm not knocking him for that. Uh, the problem is Piper is best when he's cutting short promos, and this was a almost 3-hour promo hyping up the faces, hyping up the troops, and all the good guys, and putting down the bad guys for the most part. And it got a little grating on the ears after a while. But enough about that. On to the matches. We open with the Orient Express versus the Rockers. This was much better than the WrestleMania 6 match. That much is for sure. Um, Shawn began to show how good he actually was in the ring as a wrestler, and this was him still pretty much in his formative years, so we had nowhere to go but up from this point. Marty's Marty. I don't have anything bad to say. The only difference is you can tell Shawn takes this much more seriously than Marty does, because it's still real to Shawn Michaels, like it is to all of us true wrestling fans out there. Orient Express looked fantastic. For those of you who don't know, unlike when the Rockers faced Orient Express at WrestleMania 6, Kato was Pat Tanaka's actual partner in Bad Company. Paul Diamond, Paul Diamond, I believe, was his name, and they were Bad Attitude in the AWA, and their chemistry was just so much better. They were so much cleaner together that even this team, though they wouldn't reach beyond a mid-card status, was much higher, much smoother, and much better than the original Orient Express back just a year ago. Rockers go over. Uh, Not a big surprise there, because in your opening match you want fans to feel good, and one of the best ways to ensure that is that a babyface goes over, and that is exactly what happened. So, just a lot of good action. If you like tag team wrestling and by chance you haven't seen this match, stop this video, go watch it, and come back and tell me you aren't impressed. I mean, seriously, I can't say enough. Um, Next, we had the Big Bossman taking on the Barbarian. Now, this match was essentially nothing, but it did the job in setting up the match for Mr. Perfect and Big Boss Man at WrestleMania 7, where he said he wanted to take the Intercontinental Championship from Mr. Perfect, and Heenan said before you get to him, you got to go through the entire family. Haku has been taken down, and so is the Barbarian. Barbarian's just a legit tough guy, although he was at his best when he was one half of the Powers of Pain, and no one can convince me otherwise, even if you were to try to do so. This gimmick made him look more like an actual barbarian, but that's about it. And honestly, it's a step down from this point. At this point, Barbarian has cemented himself as a mid to lower card wrestler who has skills, but just lacks that charisma and isn't really vicious enough of a heel to make you believe he's anything more than a feeder act to the person who's really going over. So of course, Bossman wins. There's some chicanery with Heenan. Perhaps a little bit of banter. Oh, I'm coming to get you on the outside kind of stuff was going on in this match, but nothing that really set this match apart. Very skippable. But again, did the job for the big setup for the big pay-per-view a little later in the year. Little surprised that this match was next, but given the time of the time that it takes to execute the Rumble and the other stories we have to tell in the event, I guess it can be given a pass and it makes sense. The Ultimate Warrior versus the Iraqi sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter, which at the time was shocking because he had just come back from doing the G.I. Joe thing, and that was very pro-America, and now he's very anti-America in the war. Oh, almost forgot, because it's important to mention this. Earlier in the night, Macho King Randy Savage had set up, or attempted to set up, I should say, Ultimate Warrior to accept a challenge from his manager, Sensational Queen Sherry, for the title, which Ultimate Warrior flatly turned down. In a comical and yet entertaining, because of how silly it is, segment. This would play a role later because, well, I'll get to that in a second. The biggest surprise for me in this match was that Slaughter ended up going over. I understand why now. But you have to understand that when I first saw this event, I was but a wee little lad. I wasn't smart enough to know that the wrestling business was staged and planned, and the winners were predetermined, and everything that everybody attempted to beat in my head, but I stood steadfast as a defender of kayfabe. And no, it's real, and these guys are doing real things to each other, and this, that, and yeah, I've gotten smarter since then. But at the time, the biggest thing that shocked me was the blatant attack by Randy Savage on the Ultimate Warrior. And I know now that the ref is a good 5 to 10 seconds behind everybody else. But you can't tell me, even with how quick Randy did the attack, even with the fact that it was way back in the arena, that when a guy runs out after a lady who's interfering in the match and then is magically crawling his way back to the ring, that a referee shouldn't be smart enough to figure out what happened. This was the most blatant and brutal attack, may I mention, that has ever happened to another wrestler that never got seen by the official. And then, of course, we had what I'm calling iconic, for lack of a better term. At the end, Randy smashes the Crystal Scepter into Warrior's head, allowing Slaughter to get the pin. Slaughter wins the title to a shock of everyone who was genuinely expecting the American-clad Ultimate Warrior to come through on this day. But fear not, because we soon had the setup between Hogan and Slaughter at WrestleMania 7, where a real American would once again regain the title from the horrible Iraqi sympathizer foreigner. Ooh, such a powerful story that was, and yet it came up short in actual in-ring performance. Actually, I think this match was better than the Hogan Slaughter match at 7. The only thing that was really comical about it was the state of Sergeant Slaughter's hair after or near the end of the match. It was scuffy. It was over here. It was over here. It was tough stuff. Just the absolute state of what little hair you had left on your hair, my friend. It's comical. Again, it's one of those things that's so bad that you have to go see it to really appreciate what it was. Um, the fans were legit taken aback by this. I mean, they were booing, and you could tell they were emotionally dead, which is why the next match was put on the way it was. It was Coco Beware taking on Jacques Rougeau under his newly minted gimmick as the Mountie. This would honestly be considered his most successful gimmick, at least until he teamed with um, Pierre and became the Quebecers, which was actually just an extension of the Mountie in tag team form. This was a squash match. Squash match. I can English good, I swear. Um, Coco at this point was really on the downslide. His best years were behind him, but he was still a name and could still come in and make people look good by taking all their stuff. And that's exactly what this purpose was. Coco didn't get squashed, but you knew the new character who was making his pay-per-view debut at this point was not going to lose, and he didn't in predictable fashion. Now we come to an interesting match because it feels kind of rushed, just because of how the end goes, but it started out decently enough as the father-son tag team of Dusty and Dustin Rhodes take on the tag team of Ted DiBiase and Virgil. Now, I watched most of the build-up between DiBiase and Virgil, um, going into this Rumble match on TV. And I just have to say that at that time, after 3 years together, I couldn't figure out why DiBiase had taken to treating Virgil so badly. Um, I guess they were trying to turn him into the sympathetic babyface, and I think if Virgil had had any actual wrestling talent, like serious wrestling talent, it might have worked, but unfortunately, the only time that Virgil got any real pop and was made to look credible was when he was having his rivalry with Ted DiBiase, because DiBiase is such a tactician in the ring that he instantly makes anyone better who is working with him. Um, you know, Dusty and Dustin dominate the early part of the match, and then Dustin appears to go for a running knee, and looks like he might have actually hurt his knee in the process. I don't know if they were selling that just for story or if this is the thing that's actually happened, because as far as I know, it would be a couple months afterwards before we would see Dustin in WCW. Um, so I'm assuming he may have legit hurt his knee in this match. If anyone knows different, they're free to correct me down in the comment section below. Um, but you could see the talent that Dustin had. He was very smooth for a rookie, very good, and he would only get better through the rest of his career. But the big build was that Virgil had made some mistakes and inadvertently hit DiBiase through the match with a couple moves. And so he's berating him. He's been talking about his mother and how he needs the job to provide for his mother who is very sick. And then Virgil simply decides he can't take anymore. He goes and picks up the $1 million belt. He drops it. DiBiase tells him to pick up the damn belt again, and he does, and proceeds to clock him with it. And this, I'm not even counting their match at WrestleMania 7 because of how that ended, because of a count out. Excuse me, my nose is very itchy. Um, This and their match at SummerSlam 92 was the best Virgil, not 92, sorry, 91. SummerSlam 91 was when Virgil fought DiBiase and won the $1 million belt. That was the crescendo of Virgil's career. There would be nothing else. When he would go to WCW, he would be under multiple names, Vincent and Curly Bill and Shane and all that wonderful stuff. And that worked out really well for him, didn't it? Nothing to be said here. Just a really bad career for what I hear was a really nice guy. So it is what it is. And now we come to the what everyone's here for, the Royal Rumble. And I'm going to do this as best I can in alphabetical order, so bear with me. We have Animal, Bret Hart, Brian Knobbs, Butch, Crush, Dino Bravo, Earthquake, Greg Valentine, Haku, Hawk, Hercules, Hulk Hogan, Jake Roberts, Jim Duggan, Jimmy Snuka, Jim Neidhart, Bushwhacker Luke, Mr. Perfect, Paul Roma, Rick Martel, Shane Douglas, forgot Saba Simba, so almost did it in alphabetical order. Smash, the British Bulldog, the Texas Tornado, the Undertaker, the Warlord, Tito Santana, and Tugboat in the Royal Rumble match. For those of you saying, hey, that's only 29 wrestlers. Where's number 30? Number 30 was supposed to be number 18, but as you can imagine, after attacking the Ultimate Warrior, we're to presume that Warrior ran him out of the building, thusly making Randy Savage the only guy to ever legit no-show for a Rumble match. So, not much to call Saba Simba is Tony Atlas, and you can tell he was at a low point in his life, probably running out of money, very desperate to get what he could. So he came back as the spear-wielding African warrior, not to be basically a thin Kamala, but much stronger. As you can imagine, that gimmick didn't last long. Hulk Hogan wins the Royal Rumble to give him momentum to head into the match at WrestleMania 7 against Sergeant Slaughter. Not really surprising. Is this the best Royal Rumble? No. That's next time. That's next time. This is somewhere in the middle. It's far from the worst Rumble I'd ever seen, as we'll discuss when we get deeper in these conversations. It feels more polished. It feels more presentable. There's a lot more effort being put in to give us decent matches. So we're definitely moving on up. And it's going to be there for about one more year. And then we'll have a bit of a downslide as the new generation comes in. But we'll talk about that when we get there. What are your thoughts on this Royal Rumble? Do you have any positive memories? Do you have any negative memories? Where would you rank this in regards to being your favorite Rumble? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. If you don't want to miss a video by the Wrestling Ranter, click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you can be notified via your device of choice. Ranter's going to get off the soapbox. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.